Hello, and welcome to this not normal Saturday upload. Kind of is normal that I upload on a Saturday. Usually it's a pickups video, but I decided to the move back to doing from weekly to monthly, just because I kind of miss doing the monthly pickups rather than the weekly ones. So yeah, you'll see the monthly pickup at the end of this month. But anyway, yeah, so early on this week, I received a package from AJ over at AJ's Movie Place. Um, and it was for a Blu-ray steelbook of Star Trek Into Darkness. And he also bought me this comic strip collection, graphic novel sorts of Doctor Who, of the Eighth Doctor Adventures. I'm after putting it back into the plastic sleeve, and it's a matter of life and death by George Mann and art by Emma Vicili. I probably butchered that, but you can see there it's done by Titan Comics, and yeah, it has five comic little comics put into one big graphic novel, and to preference this, I am recording this literally the day I got this. The day I got this package. It's as I'm recording this. It's not got. It's only been live for an hour on my YouTube, um, and I've already finished it. Yes, I've already read it in a day, and I said, I'll give a review. I don't normally do comic or graphic novel reviews on this channel, but it's Doctor Who. It's the Eighth Doctor. I love the Eighth Doctor. I mean, I have the Eighth Doctor uh, toy somewhere. I have the movie on Blu-ray, and I even have the Eighth Doctor sonic screwdriver. You know, stuff like that. So yeah, I really do love the Eighth Doctor, and I've even gone and listened to some of the Big Finish audio, because some of the Big Finish audio is available on Spotify for free, not sponsored by the way. So yeah, I read it. As I said, it took me I've been reading it on and off throughout the day, taking my time, but I knew it would be something that I would, you know, read within the day as soon as I started it, and I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of the plot elements in this reminds me of the Impossible Girl story arc and the Missy story arc from Series 7, Series 8 of Doctor Who. I'll get to that in a moment. In the spoiler side of things, because this is something I genuinely do recommend people get a hold of and read for themselves, because it is actually really really good. The story there I do have some issues with it, and we'll get to that. Um, but overall, I really did enjoy this. Um, the art style was really really good. Some of the times he didn't look like the Doctor. The sonic screwdriver that he used isn't this one. It's a completely different one, kind of similar to the Dark Eyes sonic screwdriver. From the Dark Eyes Big Finish audio. Um, and I think this takes place during the Time War, or at the very start of the Time War, because there's times when killing and war is brought up in the second and the last story of this comic, and the Eighth Doctor, loses his shit over that. He yells and about it, how he hates it and how it's destroying the universe, that the universe that he's working to put things back together is constantly at war with each other, with other things. um but yeah, so the first story takes place in this Welsh village. You know, it was this girl named Josephine Day. She's a painter, and the doctor comes to his house. Yes, the doctor has a house, probably supplied by unit, because the doctor mentions, gray hair, frills, and aikido at two different points in this story. And turns out that Josie um, came across this house. It was, in shambles, and she restored it and used it as a way to do her paintings and that. Um, and so the doctor, uh, you know, just mainly came back to find a book from about Jane Eyre, because I think he wanted to go get it signed by her, by the author. And as they're talking, someone from the village comes in and says, "Josie, your paintings have come to life." And yeah, it's basically her paintings have come to life, and some of them are monsters the Doctor has fought, like the Ice Warriors, the Cybermen, the Crotons. They've all been painted and they've all come to life. And here is where my first issue really comes up with all five of these stories. Is they're not long enough, in my personal opinion. They don't get the full, you know, developing the story developing that I believe they deserve, because it's not long after they find out that these paintings have come alive, that they go back to the pub, they see green paint leading out, and then they see all these paintings that Josie has painted that have come to life are gathering up the villagers. And then the doctor and the barwoman willingly gets captured, and then Josie goes back to the house and paints the doctor, because he's figured out what caused this to happen. Because as he scans her, he knows that there's high uh, anime uh, things with her, and it's spelled AMIMAE. So I'm just going to say it's anime, because that's, breaking it up at Annie and MAE, May, uh, anime. So she paints the doctor, he comes to life, and it turns out that the only reason why these paintings have started to come to life is the telepathic circuits. There's a part of the telepathic circuit in that house, because that the doctor had this house when he was earthbound, and so this painting doctor breaks it. Everything goes back to normal. Josie finds the book that the doctor's looking for. He opens it and he finds something intriguing. It's a to-do list of sorts, of different places to go, as well as temporal coordinates for deep space. And so he brings Josie along to find out why this is, why her, what's wrong with her, why is she with all these high anime particles. And so they go on 4 adventures together. The second adventure involves these this species that are similar to cats, not like the Novice Haim type of cats, a different species of cats. And it turns out there's this crystal species that are attacking them, and is essentially turning them into crystals, using and injecting them with fine crystals into their bloodstream, and then that slowly morphs them into crystalline, like this species. And this story felt very season 4 of Star Trek Discovery to me, with the fact that this species can't talk like you and I can talk. They talk through sound, whereas species 10C in season 4 Star Trek Discovery, if you didn't know, communicated by math, and didn't know that there's intelligent life in that universe of Star Trek season 4. And these creatures didn't know that this cat race they've been farming, constantly finding them and farming them to restart their breeding ground because their breeding planet was destroyed. Um, Kind of like how the adipose planet breeding planet went missing in season 4, and they were like, oh, well, shit, we didn't know that these were sentient beings. Like, we thought we were just looking at, like, you and I would look at grass. That's how these crystal species saw them. And there's a key, as I said, there's a key moment in this story, of the doctor yelling and being annoyed at the fact that this species is at war when it really wasn't a war. And then, to save the day, it's actually Josie who talks to these crystalline people and gets them to stop. Essentially, then the doctor finds them a new breeding planet because these species were slowly becoming extinct. And so then the third story is back in time in Edinburgh, and they go to see this magic show that this person is doing, and he brings out these two-way mirrors. He steps in one, he comes out another, and that intrigues the doctor. And it's this guy is very worried about his sister going in because he's heard horror stories of people going into these mirrors, and then when they come out, they're completely different, and they don't have a reflection in glass or any mirror. And so that intrigues the doctor. So they break in. They realize that these mirrors are linked to a bubble dimension, kind of like in It Takes You Away from season 11 of Doctor Who. But they're using this guy is essentially the villain of this story is using these people's psychic energy to constantly feed and build this army that he's doing. And Josie's the one who essentially helps free these people, and the doctor surmises that if these people go out, their mirror counterparts will be dragged back in, or they'll just cease to exist. And so again, it's Josie who stands at the mirror and ushers these people out, and then she goes out herself because the doctor realizes, hang on, this magician guy is obviously the this mirror bubble universe version of himself. Let me go track down this other person because the theater that they're in is full of happy times and laughter and all that. So what's the opposite of that, of happiness? A jail, apparently, because that's where they popped out of the mirror. So obviously the one who's under the most lock and key is the original version. And then the story ends. Like I said, this is the only issue I have with these stories is they are over far too quickly. Like, I get it, it's comics. They're not supposed to go on for 100+ pages, but I feel these stories could have done better had they had a little bit more development, and not just over in like 10, 15 pages. Maybe if it had 20 or 30 to, kind of stretch it out a bit more, I would have really appreciated that. And I would have, gravitated more to them. Like I said, I do love it. It's really, really good. But it's the length is my issue. But also there's a little callback to the last story because one of the crystal shards of these species is what's being used to harness the psychic energy. And so we get to the fourth installment where they go to this party, and these tree people called the Nixie, Nixi, that's how I'm choosing to pronounce it. These plant tree type things are coming back to life, and they've infected all these servants, and all hell breaks loose. And again, this is probably my least favorite of the four, simply because as I keep saying, these are really, really short. This one, for sure, could have done being longer because it is just over far too quickly for my liking. The Doctor and Josie arrive, and then instantly the action starts, and then instantly the Doctor, Josie, and this boy, um, Bertie, if memory serves correct. I'm literally just after finishing it, and I've already forgotten most of the unimportant names. Um, they all go out. They figure out that he tells them about this backstory of how the Nixie came. His family settled on this place. They didn't like it. They started to come alive, and then they were locked away and put into sleep. Then the Doctor figures out, oh, these Nixie traveled here 200 years prior, or even 400 years prior, and crash landed here. They were the Nixie king was in cryo sleep, and that then 200 years when they were building the house is when they initially came back, and then they used this key to put them back into cryo sleep, and then it's been 200 years since then, and now they're becoming awake. So let's go find this key, and then they use it, and they go back, and it's over, just like that. So yeah, like I said, it's my least favorite of the oops, it's my least favorite of the 5 stories from this. So now we're getting on to the 5th one, and I'm gonna have to preface spoilers here because I'm going to be going into this plus why I say this reminds me of the Impossible Girl and Missy plot of Series 7 and Series 8 of Doctor Who. So, this story opens with this auction, and it's we see someone with the paddle of number 12 bidding on this art piece. We're not specifically shown it, but we are shown the person with paddle number 12, the clothes, as well as the person next to them, and they are very, very familiar. And I want you to keep the paddle of 12 in your memory. So this person buys it, and then his traveling friend says to him, how do you plan on paying for this? And they respond, oh, I'm not. When I say run, go up and we'll go up and grab it, and we'll run and we'll skedaddle. So then it cuts to the Doctor and Josie arriving in deep space. This is the final leg of their mission, and they are on this Baraxi spa-like thing that resurrects the top 0.00001%, the richest of the rich of the great and bountiful human empire, which is a reference to season 1 of the show. And then, of course, a murder happens, and then the Doctor and Josie are immediately arrested. And then, of course, the Doctor with the sonic screwdriver, because they never took the sonic screwdriver away from him, they break out, and I see the pods of these synthetic beings that the rich's conscience are downloaded into, because that's what happens when these uber rich people are very close to death. As they're dying, the Braxi take their conscience, download their conscience at the moment of their death, and then they'll put it into this stasis, and then they'll upload it into synthetic body for them to go on and then party and rinse and repeat. And then when the Doctor and Josie are walking, a synthetic attacks, because it turns out these synthetic bodies are starting to get their own conscience and their own individuality, and that's what kicks this off. Between the Braxi are essentially suppressing these personalities, the consciousness of these synthetics, and overriding them with these uber rich people. And then as the Doctor's trying to broker peace between these, um, turns out, again spoilers, uh, Josie isn't who we thought she was. No, no, no. Turns out she's a living painting, like what happened in the first story. And turns out that it was again this uber rich person of, in the third and great human and bountiful empire that had a bunch of paintings of herself and ended up paying to get this painting done, and the painting came to life. That was, in her words, more beautiful than she was. Kind of like the this lady Josephine has the personality of um, Lady Cassandra, you know, the bitchy trampoline from season 1 and 2. And so then the Lady Josephine is like, after I got this disease where the Wade died, the Braxy took me. Turns out that they auctioned off a lot of my estate, including the Josie that we know. And yeah, so then basically the Doctor comes up with an idea of, again, pulling reference from season 4 of Doctor Who, The Silence of the Library and The Forest of the Dead, where the Doctor, in order to allow these synthetic people to coexist, creates this augmented reality for these downloaded consciousness to go and live. And then, mentions of the Shadow Proclamation, um, giving these synthetics, finding them their new home, and dealing with the Baraki. Uh, excuse me. So then we go back to the Doctor's home in Wales, and this is where we learn that Josie met an older version of the Doctor. With again, the Doctor says, "Oh, you mean the one with the frills and Aikido?" Thinking, because Josie's like, I bet you're wondering how I got from the future to the 21st century Earth, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, well, I didn't want to be, impolite." And then it turns out it was actually the 12th Doctor and Clara who set all this up, because the 12th Doctor remembered all these adventures that he had with Josie, and so he ended up realizing, oh, it should be me. It was me who set these things into motion. So let me do that. So again, like I said, akin this whole story, these 5 stories are akin to the Impossible Girl plot from series 7 of Doctor Who with Josie. This person has a lot of these anime particles. The Doctor wants to find out why he sees that this note, and that was left from his future self, akin to Missy giving Clara the phone number to the Doctor. So yeah, overall, I really liked this. I thought it was really, really good, except, as I said, for the 4th story. And that was the only one that I felt I didn't like, just because of the length. And that's the only negative thing that I have to say. And I've been saying it for the past 23 minutes. The length is the issue, being so short. It could have done with maybe 5 to 10 more pages to give it a bit more breathing room, instead of going from point A to point B to point C in rapid fire succession, not giving you a time to breathe, to take in what's going on. Overall, though, it is one that I would recommend, because at the end of it, Josie is brought on to be a companion, one of the 8th Doctor's comic companions. So I'm not sure what other comics she appears in, because this was a compilation of her story, the first 5 stories, and I really, really liked it. As it's thank you again to AJ for gifting this to me, because I know he went out to Forbidden Planet, saw it there, saw that and thought of me, and thought I might like it. and purchased it and then sent it to me. So yeah, thank you again, AJ, for that. And that has been my first ever comic review. I do plan to do a video showing off my comic collection, because I do have quite a few comic books. You know, I did show it off in a different video and a different live, but I never get its own direct video. So anyway, I've been rambling on for almost a half hour on this comic. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Again, thank you, AJ, for sending this over, and I will see you all next time.